Hey everybody, episode 46 Small Business Lives. Today we've got lovely Deborah from Fireworks DHP, who is a coach for creatives. And this episode is going to be very interesting. She's going to be telling her story, her business story, and give some really insightful tips. I'm really looking forward to this, as usual. Deborah is, let's just see, she's requested to join. She's on her way, hopefully. And I've got some news, so stay on because we've been testing something as well. Is she on her way? Go on Instagram Live. You're going to be ridiculous and not accept it. I'm going to invite Deborah then.
Yay!
Oh, you are there.
It takes a bit of time, doesn't it?
Welcome, Deborah. It's so lovely to have you here. It really, really is. Coach for creatives, inspirational woman. You are to me. You really are, actually. Amazing Argentine tango dancer who has the most amazing video out there as well that isn't about tango. One to watch on YouTube and follow. I'm going to get that in straight away. But so welcome to Small Business Lives. This is episode 46, which I started, I'm just going to say this, back in January of this year to really support small businesses to sort of gain confidence and tell their stories and use live videos on Instagram for that purpose. And I think it's really important that small business owners who maybe have a smaller following, or even those who have a larger following, but especially those who have a smaller following, have a voice. You always do, but that you have an opportunity to share it and that we all support each other that way. So that was the idea behind it. So having you on is wonderful because my love is the world of, well, the creative world, art, design, painting, photography, and so much more actually. And so we've connected through lovely Mockingbird makes Shannon and her small business hubble. So it's important to mention that. And I sort of pinpointed you as somebody that I thought was doing amazing work, but also just, I don't know, there's something about that aligns with you. So that's why it's even better that you're here.
It's my absolute pleasure to be here. And yes, there is a I will tell the audience, we have met a few times, we've spoken online, and it's just wonderful. These long conversations we have about art and creativity and the importance of it in our lives and how it inspires us and how creative people are just wonderful.
No, totally. And it's so lovely to get to unpick and find out more about you and some of the things that you've done in the past, like you worked at Harrods and so did I, and this is years back, but our paths have sort of been following each other in a funny way. And so this is serendipity that A, that I met you through Shannon, but B, that I reached out. I had to. And so, as I said, having you here, yay, it's very exciting for
My
me.
pleasure as well.
So,
hello to Katie and Yana who are saying
yes. Hi, Yana. It's the morning for Yana over there. I hope you're enjoying your breakfast and your morning tea or coffee, whatever you have, because Yana from Yana Two Worlds always says that she loves coming on and listening and watching these with her breakfast, which is really nice because she's in America. So this is your forum, and this is for you to talk about you, Deborah. Completely about
my favourite subject,
the luxury.
So subject
over to you.
Well, what can I say? I am Deborah, or Debs. Deborah is my grown-up name. Debs is what most people call me, although I'm happy with either. And I live in South London. I'm a Londoner by birth, but I've travelled a little bit and I came back to South London, which I didn't know till about 20 years ago. It's like, my God, South London, why doesn't everyone live here? It's wonderful. But I work internationally because I do all my coaching online. So I have clients in, at the moment, in America, in Canada, in France, in Dublin, as well as the UK, which is wonderful. You know, I'm just taking a call from, you know, it's brilliant. and I love the arts, obviously. I love reading. I love watching films, film history. I love, I was thinking about this when you'd asked me before about things I liked, as well as just the delight that creative things like beautiful works of art and films, music give us. I also love, it's my way into history as well. Because political history, I can read about it and I can understand it, but the way I get into history is, I remember my grandmother showing me a button hook years ago. I was going, what's a button hook? Why would you use one of those? Well, because you used to have boots, you need to button, or gloves to button. And it's the way that you can look at a beautiful teapot, and it's beautiful in itself, but then it has this story and it tells you about the people who used it. So that's another way I kind of love how creativity takes me into other worlds as well.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
I love that.
That's very interesting. It is, because you
Yes.
can map out, say you look at, I don't know, a painting, you can map out, the story within that, which then could be about another part of history. So you can delve into that world as well to find out. But then also you can find out in terms of how that person's created it, how that artist has created it, and therefore the history of the brush strokes and the type of paint and the textures and the light and what they understood at that time. And then you can go into another zone of the history about the artist, and how wonderful is that. And all that has come from that creative mind, that creative who has put something, that means something to them, or that they've maybe been commissioned to do as well, but it still has them in it. And then they're telling that story and sharing it with us, and we can get so many different layers. You're so right. It's so true, isn't it?
And it's things where it's the artist's view of the world as well, which is something you go, oh, I had not noticed that before. I mean, it was a silly thing. Sean Connery is one of my favourite actors. And it wasn't until, because to me Sean Connery was just Sean Connery, and it wasn't until I heard an impressionist being creative, doing an impersonation of Sean Connery, that I thought, oh, I think this sounds ridiculous. Oh yeah, Sean Connery's got a Scottish accent in everything. But it's like, even when he's playing an Irishman, but it was kind of just so part of him that I didn't think about it until somebody being creative said, well, this is the thing I'm going to latch onto about Sean Connery, is the Scottishness of him. Is, oh yeah, and things like there's an exhibition at the moment, a virtual exhibition, and I'm going to struggle remembering who's put it on, but it's a virtual exhibition for Black Lives Matter, and that's brilliant because you've got the art, but then you've got the artist talking about the art and why this matters to them, which then makes you think, oh, actually, and this is why it should matter to me.
Yeah.
And so it's looking into different worlds, and it can be because it's a sort of a cause thing, or it's an ethical thing, or it could just be, do you know, I'd never noticed that those particular flowers were that blue before, and it's all those things. It makes you look, and it makes you curious, and it makes you just go, oh, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought of it like that.
That's so true. There are so many layers and elements to a creation by a creative, whether it, like you said, whether it's through paint, whether it's through photography, whether it's through online creativity, whether it's through ceramics, there are so many layers to that thought process that ends in that product. But even that product then actually alters with time, because it ages and it blends into its environment, and then there's another story in there. So it's huge, and
it's wonderful.
This is what's so powerful in terms of, I suppose, how when you work with people yourself, and I know this as well, working with creative people and trying to get them to unpick as to how they can share those stories with their audience. That's what I do. But when you work with people, it must be, I mean, talk about that in terms of your work, what it is that you exactly do, and then how you help them to unpick some of these things, I should think.
what I do is I work as a coach, and I work specifically with creative professionals. Now, I should say, I think everyone is creative. Absolutely. I work with creative professionals simply because these are the people who really, it's how they want to thrive and be able to be who they are completely through expressing themselves through their creativity. I'm not saying other people don't, but it brings an extra layer to it.
Yeah, yeah.
If this is what you want your career to be, what you really want to be known as. And I mean, I think I've given the reasons why I work with creative people. I mean, I could probably earn shed loads more money if I went into corporate, but I'm really not worried about, companies that produce widgets or whatever. And what I do is I don't tell people how to do things. I'm not a creative coach, as in this is how you do your creativity. You're the expert in that as the creative person. What I do is I ask lots of questions. And it could be around, most people come to me when they know something needs to change. And sometimes they know what that thing is. Like the first time I came in contact with coaching was when I wanted to change careers. So I knew I wanted to change my career. And I just got down a tunnel of, I'm in fundraising, so the thing I have to do is go to the next fundraising job. And then I went, but I never wanted to be a fundraiser. I just kind of got into it. Funny enough, kind of through, because the way I work with people was to coach. I would ask them questions. Why is this project important? How is it going to work? How is it going to impact people? Blah, blah, blah. And so that made me a good fundraiser, because I got every bit of information out of people. So I knew something had to change in my career. Now, for some of the people who come to me, they're quite clear. They perhaps want to go to the next level, or perhaps I have a lot of women who are kind of the empty nesters, who have been running their career alongside bringing up a family, and now the children have gone off to university, and it's kind of, okay, now this is seriously my time, but I don't know how to do it, and things have changed so much, or whatever. Sometimes it's people who have come, maybe been out of art school for 4 or 5 years, and it's kind of, they don't know where to go now, because they've lost that support that you get in art college, and they've kind of been bowling along for a while, but they've gone, actually this is harder, and they may even be at that point where they're seriously thinking of giving it up and doing another job. On the other hand, I also get people who have been in corporate life and who are really good at what they do, perhaps high level in their businesses, but who say, the thing was, I actually wanted to be an artist, I wanted to be a writer, but my parents said, get a proper job. And they've been holding on to this, and they come to look at, do they just give up what they're doing and start, or do they start doing this as a side hustle, as they say? So it's lots of things like that. So some things, they know kind of what the change is in a way. Some people just come because they're stuck in some way, and they might not know how they're stuck. And sometimes it's as simple as, oh, I actually don't know how to do this. In which case I can send them on to people like yourself. If they go, I just don't know how to do social media, or I can send them in the right direction. Or sometimes it's not getting done, and they've got all these reasons why it's not getting done, but actually it's about, I'm really scared of putting myself out there. I'm scared that people will look at what is my baby and go, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And it is quite a personal thing. Whereas actually it's more, if somebody doesn't like your work, unless, I don't think you can say this without, you can say it with other things, but unless you're doing it badly, which I don't, that's what I'm saying, you can't really say that with art, can you? You can say it with other things, but if you're doing it in a way that is authentic to you, then that's yours. And if people don't like it, it's down to their taste. I went to the Royal Academy, we were talking about this earlier, I went to the Royal Academy on Saturday, and it's the belated summer show where anybody can apply, and it's very stiff to get work through. And there's some work on the walls where you just go, oh my God, that's amazing. And others where I was just going, I'm sorry, I just don't get it. And I wasn't going, that's a bad artist. It was, that's just something that I don't get.
Yeah.
But this can stop people so much, because they do take it. I mean, you know, I take things personally as well. We all do. We can't help it. But it's sort of getting a bit beyond that, and giving people confidence. And if it's what you really want to do, and if you're being authentic, I know that's an overused word these days, but if you're producing the work that is true to you,
yeah,
that's the thing to trust in.
Yeah.
And there will be people that love your work. There will be people that don't like your work. And it's about them, not about you. It's like when you go and you apply to be in the RA Summer Show, you know, there's so much work that it's more about the judges, what goes up on the walls, rather than the work itself.
That's a really good point. Really good point. Yeah. It really is. And I know that Yana said here, I wonder if you get a lot of clients with lack of confidence, which you're saying you
absolutely. I do, yes. And people who think also that confidence is a constant. Like, oh, I've got confidence, that's it, I've got it forever. There are things where I am there are two places where I feel, I don't mean this in a big-headed way, but where I feel completely confident. One is on the tango floor, although I'm not saying I'm the greatest dancer, but I just, it's where it's my home in a way. And the other is in a coaching session, even when I'm having that moment when I'm thinking, I'm not sure what question to ask next. I have that trust in myself. But there are other things, you know, we've had so many conversations, but even, you know, 12 o'clock today, I was running through, oh yeah, I want to say this. Why is she talking to me? What do I know about anything? Because, you know, I have those moments when I'm not as confident and I just have to go, I've done this before. I'm talking to Sophie. I can forget everyone else and we can just have a great time. But it's that confidence. And sometimes it's about how you feel that day. You know, you might just have a day where you go, do you know what? It's not going to happen today. I'm not feeling great. And that's fine. And we just think we have to be kind of superhuman, super confident, absolutely. It helps if you know how you can do that.
Yeah.
If you can, it's like, you know, those actors who can cry on, straight away. You have that thing that you go to that gives you that confidence.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be a physical thing. I know an artist who carries a little piece of pencil in his pocket when he's at formal events, because he knows when he's drawing, that's his safe.
That's amazing.
So he has that in his pocket.
It's like a little crutch. Do you know what I mean? We all have our little crutches, whatever they are.
This little thing, I don't know if you can quite see it. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes, no, I can. Yes.
Yeah, it's a beautiful necklace pendant, which was made by Tina Bladberg. Check her out. She's on Instagram. She does beautiful jewelry. And I don't buy this kind of jewelry for myself ever, except I did once. And I put it in my hand and I just knew it was mine. And I often touch it before I'm going to do something. And it's become a bit of a talisman as well as being something really beautiful. It's like, it's kind of that L'Oreal thing, you know, yeah, I'm worth it. But like, this is who I am. I'm equal to this beautiful thing I'm wearing. And
I really love that sentence. I am equal to this beautiful thing that I'm wearing.
Yeah.
And you hold it or touch it, and it gives you somehow that grounding and that sense of security and containment. Yeah. And I think we all need that, don't we, actually, in life, whatever it is that actually we're attracted to in some capacity, to give us that ability to take that step forward. But having somebody like you enables people who are lacking in confidence, who have maybe, you know, they can't see the wood for the trees, which is very, very easy to do because we're so bombarded all the time in life. And you help people to stop in a way. And I know that you use this to pause, don't you? And I've noticed that that's how you talk as well in your social media and your newsletters that are brilliant, by the way. So sign up for your Deborah's newsletters because they're a wealth of information of what's going on and in the art world as well. But it is about pausing, and you enable people to pause and take a step back and reflect and then understand how they can move forward, I presume, in that way. And that's very powerful for the individual. So they can work with you, you know, not just on a one-to-one, you know, one session, but on several over a period of time, I presume, as well.
Exactly, yes. It's I mean, you can have I can do an advert. I've got an offer on at the moment as part of an initiative called Overjoyed October. It went up today, which is I'm offering 20% off my power hour. And that's a one-off session where we just look at an issue or a particular area that you're concerned about, or that you want to change, or you just want guidance on, or you just want to talk about. Because sometimes it's when I mean, I know this happened with me with the coaching. When I went to a career coach, I went with a slight bit of resentment of, why am I paying somebody to help me with this? Because I've read self-help books, I can think these things through. But the thing is, when it's in your head, it goes round and round, and you go down the same you start creating these neural pathways. So you just keep going down the same tracks all the time. Oh, but if I do this, and if I do this, this. And you need somebody who does the interrupt and just say, well, do you?
Well, that's a very good way of putting it. You create the pause, but you create the interrupt as well. It's a very good way of, I like
it. It's also because when you say it out loud, sometimes my clients say to me, oh, I'm just waffling. And I go, well, no, you're not. Because when you're saying it out loud, you have to say it in a way that someone else understands. And this even works if you're journaling to an extent, because very few of us, I think, actually do write complete stream of consciousness. We are trying to put it into some sort of order. And it's by externalizing it, particularly saying it to someone else, you have to start putting it in some kind of sense. And as you're saying it, I had one coaching session, it was an hour-long coaching session, where I said to the person, we've done we always do pre-session questions and what they want to work on. And I said, okay, so do you still want to work on this? Yes, I do. Yeah, because blah, blah, blah. And I let her talk for an hour. Now, I will interrupt people and go, let's talk about this. But I could see what she was doing. And she would go, oh, but if I did that, then I could do that, and that would work. And she was working it all out herself. And at the end of the session, I just said, is there anything else you want to talk about? And it was kind of like, part of me thought, oh, that was an easy session. But what I was doing was holding that safe space where I wasn't going to go, really? You think you can do that? And she had that room to think and to verbalize. And that was an exception to a lot of the coaching. But it's then I will say, oh, now this is interesting. You've said that thing 2 or 3 times. Why does that keep coming up? And they might not have noticed. Or they will say, yeah, I mean, a popular one, I never have any confidence. Never? So you never leave your house because you don't have the confidence? Well, of course I go out. Okay, so you do have confidence sometimes. Where do you have confidence? So it kind of builds like that. And the thing about coaching is no 2 sessions are ever the same, because it's a dialogue.
Yeah.
And we all think in different ways. We all have different things that trip us up. Sometimes it's huge things. Sometimes it's tiny things, or tiny things to someone else. But that tiny thing that is a nothing, probably not even noticed by someone else in their life, is this huge, great boulder in your life that you can't get around or through.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And it's about, how do you make that work? It's even things, I mean, I'm sure this is what happens with you with the social media, because I know you don't just tell people, you coach people with it, is that, oh, well, I've got to do this. I've got to do a post every single day. Who says? There's no law. You're not going to get the police knocking on your door if you don't do a post. And it's kind of, well, how do you do this so it works for you, so that you feel comfortable? And, you know, we talk about comfort zones a lot. And I think, yes, we do have to get out of our comfort zones sometimes, but actually comfort zones are there because they're comfortable, and that's where we work best. But sometimes we do have to take that step. And I'm there to, there was a phrase that my favorite, my kind of guru, if I like, coach called, Marcia Reynolds used. She talked about being a thinking partner. And I love that phrase, because that's what I do. I think along with you. I don't say, right, this is what you have to do.
No, I think that's a really good way of putting it, actually, because you are that person who, you know, enables people to have a safe space, to feel that they can actually talk it through, and by externalizing it, as you're saying, they work it through themselves. They hear their own voice as well, which is very powerful, even though they don't know they're hearing it. In a way, it's embedding, isn't it? And then you're the person who sort of cuts those neurological pathways and sort of creates that break, and by asking those questions and enabling that person to sort of stop for a second and reflect again.
Yes.
And that's as a thinking partner. I like that more than a coach, actually. I actually prefer that.
I do, because coaching still has this connotation that I'm going to tell you what to do. Now, I will be honest and say I sometimes do blur the lines a little bit, because I'm incredibly old and I've got decades of experience with all kinds of things. But you know, I've done things like I've done marketing, I've run friends organizations, as you say, I worked in Harrods selling theatre tickets. I've done all kinds of stuff. So sometimes when I'm working with someone, if they say, well, I mean, if they say, for instance, like, oh, I don't know how to do this on Instagram, I'm not going to say, so tell me, how could you find out how to do it on Instagram? I can just say, look, this is what you do. You press that button, you know, because...
No, you're not supposed to say that.
But you know what I mean. You know, I'm not going to go... I mean, if they then say, I want to do a whole Instagram thing, then I send them to you. No problem. But, you know, but it is that thing. Sometimes if I have practical... But sometimes also, I always say to people, if I give you a suggestion, it's not because I'm right. I'm just putting it out there. And I have sometimes given someone a suggestion which I know is totally wrong, just to see their reaction.
No, but that's important.
And to get to go, what? I said to somebody once who was just going, oh, being an artist is horrible, and it's, I'm never going to get any money, and just going through all the... I mean, I'm kind of being funny about it, but I know it can be awful, because you can be working on your own, you can be slogging away, but it was just a litany of all the awful things, and I knew that they didn't really believe this. It was just... So I said, well, and it was a bit of a dangerous thing to say, I said, well, you've got all these other skills, you've got all these transferable skills, so why do you have to be an artist? but I am an artist. Great. Now that we've established that.
That's a really good question, because that would really push the button of that person wanting to defend what is so incredibly important and personal and meaningful to them. So it was an awakening. Absolutely. I am an artist.
And it's getting that. And I'm very careful how I ask that. I think I've only asked it a couple of times in 13 years of coaching, because you have to be pretty certain of how passionate that, and it is just that sort of sort of a kind of a bit of a tough love, I suppose, because I'm not known for being a tough coach, although I never let people get away with anything, because I think, you know, I mean, it's why we were talking earlier about not everyone will like your work as an artist. I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea as a coach, because I'm not somebody who said, you should get out there, you should press, you should be doing it. We've got this going on in our heads all the time. We really don't need somebody else shouting at us. You know, so I am kind of a softer coach. I believe in having fun. There's lots of laughter in a lot of my sessions. And it's about, and sometimes it can be that thing of, look, life is tough. Let's just try and find the good stuff so that we can work through it. Yeah. So it's not saying, oh, well, you know, you're just making a mountain out of a molehill. It's just, no, this is a serious thing, but let's find a way to make it less frightening by putting some fun in it, and by and the most important thing is having people know that they've got someone on their side. Yeah. That I'm not just going to go, yes, whatever you want to do, that's fine. No, we're going to say, because that's what your friends do. and you often go to your friends for advice when you know what their answers will be, when they know that they will collude with you. I do it. It's when you have those people who, and it's what I do, is I'm on your side, and is that the best thing you could do, or are there other alternatives, or, and you just unpick these things. But it's never about making the coachee wrong, because who am I to say? You know, if they come up with an idea, I mean, I'm the person who once advised a friend not to invest in Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals in Evita, because why would anyone want to, you know, go and see Evita, for goodness sake? That friendship went downhill very quickly. But you know, it's that thing of, what do I know about art? I mean, okay, as I go and I look at art and I love art, and I'm on the board of ArtCam, which is an amazing organisation that works with artists. But I'm not going to critique how you work or the work that you do.
That's not your purpose at all, is it? Your purpose is that safe space, that thinking partner, that place to pause, that place to reflect, that place to externalize our thoughts on our work and on what we're doing, so that we can reach whatever it is that we're wanting to reach in terms of our goals. And we're not talking about necessarily always business goals. It could be personal goals in that sense, you know, developmental goals, all those kind of things. And that's really important. And you're that, the break. What did you call it again? God, I've got, my brain's gone.
Well, it's sort of like the interrupt.
That's it, the interrupt between those neurological pathways. And that's really true. I know that you've written a book, which I'm going to mention as well, which always comes back to front here. I've got my copy here, but it's called What's Your Excuse for Not Succeeding as an Artist? Overcome your excuses, nurture your creative potential, and thrive. And I think that, you know, this is an invaluable one to have a look at as well, in terms of, you know, with your book. I think there's some really insightful, I haven't read very much of it because I've only just got it.
Yes, we
won't go into that. Yes. But it goes through elements of talking about the excuses, so fears and mindset, ideas about other people, knowledge, logistics, finances, and time. So it's pretty thorough as well, but it's nice because it's you know, it's a little book, and so it's not frightening, is it? It's not intimidating.
And the first thing is that to say, I mean, it's in a series. So when I say the title, What's Your Excuse for Not Being or Not Succeeding in Art, it sounds terribly judgmental. The whole series is called What's Your Excuse? And there are different books by different coaches. And it comes from the concept that excuses aren't bad things.
No.
Excuses are there to, again, I mean, you can always say it's an interrupt as well. They're there to protect you.
Yes.
But the problem is we kind of believe them too much sometimes. We go, oh, well, you know, this is the reason I can't do this because of this, when actually there's something else underneath. And one of the things, when I was approached to write the book, one of the things that I liked about it was when you open the books and you go down that index, you kind of go, oh, that's one of mine. That's one of mine. I thought that was just me. So immediately you kind of go, oh, so I'm not just making, you know, I'm not being a complete idiot. And the idea is that, I mean, you can read the whole book in probably about an hour or so. It's a very easy read. Well, might be longer than that. Sorry, just being judgmental. But you can just read it in one go. I'm sorry. It's a very bizarre thing. I'm on the very mild end of dyslexia, and yet I'm a very fast reader. It's just I can't spell for toffee. So I read quite fast, so maybe I'm being too judgmental. But you can read it through in one go, or you can dip into it. You can keep going back to it when you feel that excuse coming up. And it's each excuse has a kind of a, this is where the excuse can come from. This is what it can mean. It's okay. I mean, it doesn't say it's okay on every page, but it's okay to have these excuses. And then it gives either a little example or a little exercise that you can do. And one of the things that I'm finding really lovely is that people are reading it and then they're sending me photographs of their pages, you know, with a highlighter, lots of post-it notes. And I love that. You know, this is the page I always go to. This is the one that makes this is the one that helps me a lot. And I said, when I did the, there's a little video of my book launch where I gave a speech. And I said, I wanted it to be like a hug on a shelf. So that when you're sitting in your studio on your own going, oh, only my mum loves me and only my dog likes my work, you can reach for this. And even if you don't read anything, you can just know that there is someone else, i.e. me, who is on your side. And
that's really nice. You know, that I think that, because there are so many more questions that we were going to talk through, but we are. So, but I think actually that sums up one of the reasons as to why you're unique, actually, in the way that, and the uniqueness is to do with you, obviously, but I think that's what it is, actually. These different things I've talked about, the pause and that safe space, and I know other people do it, but actually you are what did you call it? A hug in a book, did you say?
Yeah, a hug on a shelf.
A hug on a shelf. Well, I think you are that hug on the shelf, but you're not on the shelf. That sounds really wrong. I'll rephrase.
I'm not worried about that. Or if you like, a hug on, a hug on Instagram, because obviously, we use social media because we want to get our work out there. But I think and I want people to work with me because I love working with them one-to-one.
Yeah.
But I think, if someone reads one of my posts and just gets something from, like with me looking at a painting, we just go, oh, I hadn't thought about it like that, or oh, that's actually a thing then. Other people think that.
But that's how it comes across, Debs. It's in terms of through your newsletter, through your posts, and when you talk to you as well. You can see it today. There's a warmth, there's a generosity, there's a kindness. There is this real person who really does want to support others to move from being stuck to, feeling that they've got it. They had it always, but now they've got it again, and they might dip again, but then they can come back and they can go through that process again, or a slightly different process. But you are that hug. You are, and it is in your social media, and you get it across the board in everything, the way that you write, in that wonderful video that made me cry my eyes out, to do with This Is Not a Video About Tango. I go on about it, but it's so beautiful, and it makes you think, and it makes you pause, and it makes you slow down, and it makes you see things clearer, and that's what you're about.
Thank you.
That's it, genuinely. I mean it, hand on heart, because even just talking to you today, that's how this is coming through for me, that you're helping me slow down and take things clearer, and you don't know you're doing it.
I know, and it just is. I don't know how to say it. That sounded a bit arsey, really, but
no, just say it. Just say it.
If my life is only about me, then what's the point, really? It's about. I really love working on my own. I love having my own business and being independent, but because that gives me the freedom to be part of the Small Business Huddle, which is so wonderful and warm and collaborative, and being part of ArtCam, which I've mentioned, which is this fantastic arts organisation, which is supporting artists. And again, that's all about collaboration and kindness. And one of the things I love is not just in coaching sessions, but is that moment where I go, I know someone you could talk to, and you link people up because you think they would just work well together. And sometimes, I mean, I've seen projects where I introduced people like 12 years ago, and they've probably forgotten that I'm the one that introduced them, and they're doing great things. I think, I don't care I don't need them to go, oh yes, it was all down to Deborah. I don't care. The fact is, I see them doing that, and I go, I know where that started.
Oh, that's so lovely. That's the centre,
It's sort of a catalyst, yeah. And the thing I love, the thing that really motivates me, seeing things like that, and also in a coaching session, it's that moment when the signal comes in different ways, but it's basically that sort of moment when I call my business catching fireworks. It's what I call the light the blue touch paper moment. It's that moment when someone goes, and they've seen something differently, whether that's in themselves, whether it's out there, how to do something, but they've just had that little moment where they go, oh, and I love that. And I think sometimes I come off a coaching call after that's happened, and I'm almost dancing around the flat. Yes,
you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of like Tinkerbell, and you are that sort of. Sorry, I see things in colour, and I see things. I told you about the synesthesia, but about a visual. Everything becomes a visual and movement and video almost. But that's how I see the world, and I can see it. You're going around with this little bit of, and people get those, you know, that little spark of which is the fireworks. It's perfect. I love it. You're like Tinkerbell, but with a big hug as well. Sorry, you might not want to be associated with that.
No, I have no problem. I just think Tinkerbell was like that, and I'm slightly, but no, I mean, it is that, and it is this thing of sometimes I have, you know, we have obviously formal coaching sessions, but sometimes I would just be talking to someone, and they might say, oh, you know, that's not working, and I'll just ask them a question, and sometimes I do it quite deliberately, sort of I would never deliberately go to a whole coaching session with someone without asking permission. But sometimes you think, I wonder if I just ask that question, what will happen? And you just ask a little question, or you just make a comment where they go, oh, I remember having a conversation with someone at Tango, funnily enough, and it was a kind of a New Year's tango. And I said, so what's the new year got for you? And she said, oh, well, I'm just being promoted. I've been on reception. Now I'm going to be the PA to someone. And and it was all that kind of thing. And I just went, oh, that would be really exciting. Sorry? I said, oh, yes. I said, what are you going to do first thing tomorrow morning when you get to the office? Oh, wow. Well, and then she started talking through what she was going to do.
I love it.
Before we started this conversation, she'd said, oh, what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm a coach. And you're like, straight overhead. No idea what that was.
And you just did it.
And then she did. And she, and I'm going to, I'm really looking forward to it. Oh, now I know what you do. Yeah. And I thought, you know what?
Brilliant.
I don't even care that she got what I did. The point was, she wasn't going to go to bed that night going, oh, I'm really not looking forward to it. She was, you know, she was being lifted. I kind of changing the coin over, you know, because fear and excitement are two sides of the same coin. Just flipping that coin. Tom Daley says something brilliant in the Olympics. It's my quote of the year so far, I think. Someone was talking to him about fear.
Yeah.
And he said, fear is excitement without the breathing. Because when you think of it, when you're frightened, you kind of go, and you start breathing up here. But so here's a quick tip. If you're feeling frightened, feel that thing, take deep breaths and start breathing from your diaphragm and ground yourself a bit. Makes a huge difference. But I just love that. Fear.
No, it's true. Yeah. And actually the breathing technique, I digress on the breathing technique is really invaluable, and it does so much good for the body in terms of, you know, the neurological pathways, also our hormones, also, you know, it grounds us, it like you said, it calms us down, it slows it down, and we refocus through breath as well. So this calms and can refocus. But yeah, so no, really, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, if you, I'll probably need to repost it on my feed somewhere. I've got a thing called a 1 minute meditation.
Yes.
And it's particularly good for people who don't like meditation. And very quickly, it's just, you time yourself for a minute breathing. And all you do is just breathe. It's not one of these where you have to think of anything complicated ways of breathing. You just breathe in a way that's natural for yourself. You put a timer on for a minute and you count how many breaths you take. And then the next time you start, with me, it's when the shoulders start coming up to my ears. I go, oh, I'm getting a bit tense now. Obviously, that's over-exaggerating. But when you feel that tension, when you feel those nerves, when you're feeling a bit anxious or you're just overwhelmed, you just stop and you count that many breaths. So you don't even need to have your clock near you. And it's an interrupt. It's a great interrupt thing. It's just like a gentle reset button. And it's the moment you start thinking about your breathing starts slowing. It's just a scientific thing. And you start going, oh yeah, how am I breathing? So just by thinking about your breathing, it starts slowing it down. Your body gets calm. your mind goes, well, the body seems to be all right, so obviously I've got that much to worry about. So it's kind of this virtuous loop between body and mind. And it's only a minute, because you always say, oh, I'm so busy, I haven't got time to do anything. It's just a minute. And we are probably spending 10 minutes freaking out when we could just go, just take a breath. And it's a sort of almost like a mental stepping back. And it's I've completely forgotten the name, Dr. Michael somebody, I'll have to check it out. It's on the post, I think. It was one that I went to a coaching conference, and he did that with us, and we all just went, that's so simple. It's so easy, and you can do it anywhere. And it's just, it just brings you down, calms you down. If you're going to be going to you're at your own private view and you've got to say a few words, I don't really like, just pop off to the loo, stand in a cubicle, do that for a minute, and it just brings things out. And I'm not saying it, send your fear away completely. Of course it won't, but it just, it helps. It's the whole physical thing, but it's also that thing about control. I can control how I feel. It's brilliant, isn't it? I use it.
No, it really is. I swear by it 100% that when I'm having a moment,
we all have a moment from time to time,
then actually I want to alter that moment into something that enables me to feel grounded to me, and like you said, enables me to actually understand my inner strength and that I always have, that I, like you said, can control. And it's not about control, but it's I am in control of my body, my mind and my heart and my breathing and everything. I am one, but I can slow it down. But that's again going back to what you are about, is that pause, is that listening partner, it is that the hug, the person who creates that break, that support mechanism. And it's all these different techniques that you actually are able to use, from what I'm hearing, that are really invaluable in terms of how creative people who often, I think, no, this is a sweeping generalization. I'm not going to say what I was going to say because it's a generalization, so I'm going to shut up. Any case.
And this is another thing that creators have to put up with. If there are, I had a fellow coach who did more corporate stuff, and I said I work with creators, and he said, God, that must be hard because they're so flaky. And I thought, do you know how effing hard creative people work? And how much goes into it, and how emotionally invested people are. How dare he? It's just a different way of thinking, different sets of thinking.
Totally. No, I totally agree. I think sometimes there's other dimensions when you do go in. It goes back to the very beginning of our conversation, that within the creative sphere, that whatever you're creating, it could be creating a mug, it could be creating a book, whatever you're creating as such, or a piece of, a painting or a photograph, is that it comes from so many different layers, and that's exhausting at times. And so actually what you're doing is you're helping to create a safe space and create a pause maybe in between those layers, so that those layers don't become fragmented and a bit, but actually calm down again. And I always think of it a bit like the strata that we have underneath the land that we walk under, is millions and millions of layers of, soil and rock and all that keeps this world sort of strong. And you take bits away from it, that's eroded by the climate or us, unfortunately, and it starts to crumble a little bit. And then we need to repair it a bit. And you're that sort of person coming in with those stratas and putting things to help them feel stronger. I think that's me. Maybe I see it again.
And the thing is also, it's completely different with every person I work with, because everyone is different and everyone has different needs and different attitudes. And so you can't come and go, oh, I've got this tool for you. I very rarely use coaching tools. I use questions. And now sometimes I might send people exercise and say, try this out. This might help you think it through. But I think the most important thing is giving people the space and the honor of listening to them and knowing it's their agenda. I'm not here. It's again, this is about my relationship with the people I work with. Is I'm not invested in them in the way that their best friend or their mums or their, you know, so I can kind of walk away. So I'm objective, but at the same time, I'm absolutely on their side. So it's that sort of double thing. And I love it. I always also say I never have ex-clients. I just have people who aren't paying me at the moment, because, you know, once somebody's my client, I follow them through, and I know I stalk them, and I'm always there for, you know, to cheerlead and also it's about making those networks, because you never know when you kind of go, oh, you know, I know that person I worked with technically 2 years ago might be of interest to this person. And so I love doing that as well. If I could monetize that.
So,
you know,
so community is so incredibly important to you as well, isn't it? And connection, and people being able to support each other and cheerlead and champion as well, which I know we're asking some of the questions. I haven't asked the questions, but we're going through it at a pace. But is there anything
like collaboration as well? Because I always see the coaching as a collaboration, because I'm, you know, as much as I could call myself an expert in coaching, I know how to hold a space and how to create that space for you to be, and you're the expert in you. And so it's bringing your expertise and my expertise together to make something wonderful for you, which can be, you know, I mean, one of the first, the book is What's Your Excuse for Not Succeeding as an Artist? And the first thing I address is, what is success? And for some people, that is, I want to be rich, I want to be famous. That's what you want to be. Brilliant. We'll work on that. If it's, I want to be able to be in my studio 2 days a week because I need this work for myself, that's fine. I don't come with any prejudgments of what you should be working on, because it's different for everyone. And I've got 1 or 2 clients who I've been working with one client about 3 years now. We have half an hour a month, and it's almost like a check-in, and it's a place where she knows she's got that ongoing accountability. And accountability not in a, you haven't done that, but in a, okay, so that didn't happen. Why do we think that was? Perhaps it's not the right thing. Perhaps it's not the right time, you know, whatever. But it's,
no, it's very powerful what you're doing. It really is. I was going to just ask you, because we've asked, you know, lots of questions here. If there's anything, you know, that you've read or listened to lately that's inspired you.
Funny enough, yes, they're not. Well, one is directly arts related. I'm not a great podcast person, funny enough. I tend to be more, if I'm listening to something, I tend to listen to kind of dramas and that sort of thing. I like stories. But there's 2 podcasts at the moment I'm really enjoying. One is by somebody else who is actually a creative coach called Mark McGuinness. And he's not only a coach, he's also a poet. That's his creativity. And he's got this wonderful podcast called A Mouthful of Air. And it's all about poetry. And that's a line from, I think it's W.H. Auden, I can't remember. It comes out every 2 weeks. And he reads a poem and then he talks about it and explains it. Sometimes it's his own work. Sometimes he sometimes has other poets on there. But I love it for 2 reasons. One is because poetry is one of those things that I kind of like, but sometimes I read and go, I think I'm missing chunks of this, or chunks of meaning. But also, I just love hearing somebody who is, I mean, Mark he says himself, he's an introvert, so he's not like, noisy sort of person. And it's somebody who's very quietly passionate about something, being quietly passionate about the thing he's quietly passionate about. You know what I mean? It's just, it's this wonderful hearing somebody, and just because he's interested in it, you think, oh, I might look into that. And the other one is kind of completely different. It's called My Time Capsule. And it started at the beginning of the pandemic by an actor called Michael Fenton Stevens. And he's one of these people, he's been around for years, and he's never the top lead, but you would probably know his face if you saw him, because he turns up in most situation comedies or sketch shows on the radio, this kind of thing. And he's a good, really incredibly reliable, you know, 3rd, 4th lead. And his contacts book is obviously huge, because he's been in, you know, like the thick of it, and he's worked with all these kinds of people. And the time capsule is 4 things that are meaningful to you that you want to keep, and one thing you want to throw away. And his first guest was Stephen Fry, and he's talked with all kinds of actors like Rebecca Front, comedians like Ross Noble. I think today it's the 135th edition. And the thing that's lovely is, because he knows most of these people really well, it's like this. It's just a great chat based around these 5 things. And it's actually a really great thing to listen to as a creative person, because you hear, it's not about you go to drama school and then you get your first role and then you get your next starring role and then you do. It's about this whole route around, and you do all these things and you get to know these people. Oh, and somebody just happens to mention that, and all those kind of weird things that happen. I mean, it's happened to me in my career, these weird things that suddenly happen where you think, oh, I didn't even know that was a possibility. Oh, I'll go off and do that then. But and they're also, I sent it to someone the other week, and she wrote back and she said, oh, it was going back to a hug. It was really warm and lovely and cozy in the nicest possible way, you know. So that's really, the second podcast is called My Time Capsule. So if you search for My Time Capsule podcast, it's on Apple and all the other things, and I think it's on Spotify or something. I don't know. I don't understand podcast things like that. I just turn up on them. If somebody wants to invite me on a podcast or an Insta Live, I usually say, yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? but no, that's wonderful. I love the sounds of those, actually. And again, that fits with the way you work as well. And I'm really lovely, actually. I was, you know, you've talked about, you know, actually I was going to ask you this, and we'll need to come to an end in a moment, but we could talk for hours. I might have to have you come back on. Is if you had a business tip or anything like that you wanted to share with small business owners at all, or or you think we've already covered that?
I think it would be, there are certain things that you have to do in certain ways when you run a business. Like, you have to do your invoicing, you have to do your tax, there might be legalities. But other than that, do your business your way, the way that works for you. I mean, when I first, I had no intention of starting my own business, but when I suddenly found that that's what I was doing, I read all these books which said, sell your television because you're going to be working 90 hours a week. And if you're really serious about your business, and you will be doing this, and you'll be going out and talking to people all the time, and you'll be doing this. And it was like, okay, fine, thank you. And some of these things just, I'm not going to do because it's not me. And it's finding the way, have the business the size you want it to be. I mean, if I look at in the coaching business, it's all about how to be a 6-figure coach. You know, how to be able to coach for 6 months and then take the other 6 months off. No, I'm doing the coaching because I want to do it every day because I love doing it. I don't want to be, you know, and it's about doing it your own way. And that's about, if you, I mean, I do practically everything in my business myself because I have that sort of brain where sometimes I want to be doing, well, I won't say I want to be doing the numbers, but you know, I'm doing the financials. Sometimes I want to be designing the Canva and planning the media strategy because I just love doing all these different things. But if you really, really hate doing numbers, get a bookkeeper. Or if you can't get one now, put a plan in place. So how could I get one in 6 months' time? But do it your own way and don't feel, other than the taxes, HMRC, don't feel constrained that you have to do it the way that everyone else does it or the way that they tell you to do it. And if running your business is doing it one day a week, that's your business. You do it. If you want to be working 7 days a week, I probably do work silly hours because I'm not doing my business. I'm doing what I love. And so, yeah, I have my boundaries. I finish work at 5 o'clock on a Friday and there I am Saturday afternoon, you know, doing stuff because, oh yeah, I quite like doing this. I feel like doing this now. Do it your way. Again, this word authentic, be authentic because that's what people want. And of course, that's what artists do all the time. They create work from their souls. So create your business the same way. How does it work for you? How do you want to be seen on Instagram and other social media? Don't worry about what everybody else is doing.
No, then I agree with you wholeheartedly on that, and that's how I always work with people. Is it's actually you can understand the fundamentals, and that's actually really key. I always say I went to Alexander McQueen's exhibition years ago, at the V&A, the most amazing. I went back and I kept going back and I kept going back. I
It
could have
was
lived in that.
overwhelming, wasn't it? It was just like
I loved it. I could have lived in those rooms, and that man was very, very clever. But he always said that he had the foundations. He learned how to be a tailor. He learned how to be a, create those different forms of seams. He learned all of that at the baseline and worked very hard. And then he could go off and break the rules.
Exactly.
And I'm a bit like that. So learn how to use Instagram with me. Understand how those different elements of it work. But then you can start to really make it your own and enjoy it.
That's the key. That's the key.
Break the rules.
Break the rules.
Yeah.
But you need to know the rules exactly before you can break them.
No, definitely, definitely. Is there anything else you would like to add? Because we've been on for quite a long time, I'm aware.
No, just you wanted a fun fact from me.
Yes, yes.
I've got to tell you, well, I once, with my friend Jo, we raised Tower Bridge.
Okay. What you meant? You went and raised it?
No, we went into
the dance. Yes.
We actually
went through a wheel.
No, it's all buttons. It's all buttons.
I'm going back. You see, I've gone back. Not that I thought you were that old. Do
you mind? I had some football fans letting me off the tube recently and saying, "Make way for the lady. She could be your granny." And I thought, okay, well, thank you. I like to think they have a hip, cool granny, but no. So Tower Bridge, I knew somebody who worked at Tower Bridge, and I was telling him I loved it so much, and he said, "Would you like to come and raise Tower Bridge one day?" I went, okay. So I took my friend Jo as her birthday present.
That's brilliant.
And so she put it up, and I put it down.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And again, do you know what this links to? It links to a pause and a break. And that's what you did to the traffic.
Absolutely.
And it goes back to...
and collaboration, because I took my friend Jo. And another fun fact to go with that was the guy who was what they call the engineer, who was the guy who was guiding us. He was a very big guy. He used to be the training partner in weights with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, I mean, how random a fact is that to find out when you're just about to press a button to lower a bridge?
That's brilliant. It sounds really, really good fun, and it is an amazing spectacle when it happens. So it's pretty cool, actually.
When it got stuck a few weeks ago, I just rang up Jo and said, "It wasn't us, don't worry."
That's brilliant. I love it. I think, just very quickly, if you're in my shoes, what question would you have asked yourself that I haven't?
It's a very coaching question, that one. I
know.
And again, I would ask another coaching question, which would be, what would you go back and say to your younger self? And I would go back and say, trust yourself. I would say two things. Number one would be trust yourself, because whatever happens and however over dramatized you get about it, and however painful things might be or difficult, you always find a way through. So trust yourself. And the second thing is, I would go back to about 1986 and say, if ever you go into a shop where there is an apricot coloured all-in-one flying suit, don't buy it, because it is never going to look good.
That is brilliant.
I told you I like fun, I
love it. I've got this image. That's brilliant. That really is. Thank you so much. That is so good. So, absolutely amazing live, and there's so much that can be used in this as well. So it's brilliant, and I hope it's really been useful for you as well.
It's huge fun. It's always a joy talking to you. So
no, it's absolutely brilliant, and you can unpick it and you can repurpose it if you want to as well. I'm going to pop it on IGTV later, although that doesn't exist anymore. So I'm just going to post it to go live. I haven't changed my language yet. It changed all last week. So viewers can find you at obviously your Instagram, which is fireworksdhp, and your website as well. What's that?
catchingfireworks.co.uk. If you obviously you're on Instagram, so if you go to my Insta link, there is a quick links, and that will take you through to my website, and you can book appointments, you can go and read my blogs. I've got videos on YouTube, just little short 2-3 minute videos with little tips, the sort of things we've talked about. And
you've got your offer. Just mention your offer again.
My offer is, if you book a power hour with me by the 31st of December, by the 31st of October, but you can take it until December, you can have the power hour 20% off, and that power hour is for you to work on a particular issue. It can be to get you unblocked, to get your goals finished for this year. It can be helping you to set up for next year. It's your agenda, and you get pre-session questions, you get the 60 minutes, you get a follow-up email with any actions you've spoken about, you get email access to me for a month, and at the end of the month I just send you a little email going, how's it going then? So a little follow-up to just keep you on track and know that you're still being thought about, and I haven't just gone, I've got your money, off you go.
No, that's amazing. That's so thoughtful. Epitomizes what you're about, which is to really support others, to move from stuck to, you know, feeling where they want to be and happier within self. You are my little Tinkerbell, and if those who haven't watched it, you'll have to go back a bit and see what I mean. And you are that hug, the pause, you are the break. It's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. Love you lots. And I'll be back in a couple of weeks because I'm taking a break next week because I am. That's it. And
you do it your way.
Yeah, I do it my way. And then I'll be back with lovely Saskia from Portray Your Story on Monday the 1st of November at 1 o'clock. So another creative. So there we go. Love you lots. Thank you so much, Debs.
Love you, my dear.
Right, take care. All right. Bye. Bye.